Hey, I'll be right there. Be right there. Hi. Oh, hey, hey, hey. Say hi. Hey. Hi. Anybody want to hear something scary? Scary story? Hey, Leah Jane, how are ya? How you doing? Anybody ever heard of insane asylums from back in the day? I might read from this. Good, thanks. How are you? Oh, I'm hanging in there. Just felt like a couple of stories before bed. I was going to do some of this, but I think I'll wait and do a couple of haunted stories. I met the authors yesterday, husband and wife, and they visited every place here. The husband wrote 3 of the chapters of this, I think, and she wrote all the rest. So I think we'll read from Indianapolis, okay? Some haunted stories. Let me show you something else. I bought this one from them. She wrote this, Encyclopedia of Haunted Indiana. Hey, Mary, Mary, Mary. The author, Mary, I met her and her husband yesterday. Her name's Nicole Kabrowski. Her husband is from another country. I don't know what his accent was, but it was different. And I'm going to email them. They said to email them. They live in Westfield, Indiana. It said she's Indiana's most trusted and accomplished paranormal researcher. One of them. Since she was 13 years old, she has investigated haunted locations and interviewed hundreds of people about their experiences. She is the author of over a dozen books and the co-owner of unseenpress.com, a paranormal media company and ghost tour business. She has an accomplished career as a public speaker, appeared on countless television shows and in print and web publications. Currently, she continues to make appearances, write and work in education. Nicole lives in Westfield, Indiana, with her best friend and husband, Michael, and their rescued kitty, Lila, who is sensitive to the supernatural. Isn't that cool? So this will be good too. But this one has some stories, so I'm going to go with this right now. Okay? All right. And we will get started right now. Kick back, relax, and enjoy a couple of spooky stories. Okay? They even gave me free bookmarkers. Oh, and look, signed my books. Okay, let's see here. Here's the rescue kitty, Lila. Looks really cute. Big old cat, huh? The best and most badass cat ever. Shoes and Funerals, page 35. Let's go there. Same here, Mary. I do find it fascinating. What was I going to? Oh, here, I'm going to show this picture. The oldest shoe store in America, Stout's Shoes. So I guess they're saying this is haunted, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Shoes and Funerals by Nicole Kabrowski. My fascination with shoes might have started with the fact I grew up poor enough to have one pair of good shoes that I wore to school and church, a pair of gym shoes, and maybe a pair of sandals. I remember a pair of blue Stride Right shoes that lasted 3 years until the leather could no longer realistically be polished, and my toes were smashed against the shoe's toe box. As a teenager, I had about 10 pairs of shoes and loved shopping at Goodwill for more. My favorite sports shoes were white high-top Pumas with a pink logo. They wore well and were amazingly comfortable in all activities. I loved heels as well. In the 1980s, the sky was the limit with heels, and my favorites were a 1940s pair of 4-inch stiletto heels that were my grandmother's shoes. They were stunning black leather with a scalloped top line and collar, with a small, cunning black bow near the middle of the pointed toe. Mr. Dobbins, who owned Smith Shoe Repair, lovingly sewed a repair in the leather at the outer edge of the vamp. They were a size 5, and I was devastated when my foot grew 3 sizes in one summer. But ultimately, that was okay. It meant more shoes. As one grows older, the abuses of sports, weight, poor shoes, and life take a toll on one's feet. A long time passed between the time cute shoes were supportive. It was fortuitous when I started researching Dr. Nabe as part of her story ended up at a shoe store. I watched a couple of shows about ghosts and such, but in order for me to believe most things, it is usually a seeing is believing for me. Me too, Mary. Me too. Me too. Hi, whoever else is here. Come on in. Go get your friends. We got our little reading nook. Let's see. All right. Dr. Nabe was a doctor who had an amazing life. She was murdered and currently spends her time haunting 2 buildings and occasionally my house. The day Dr. Nabe was found dead, her assistant, Catherine McPherson, stopped at Stout's Shoes just a block away from the apartment. She picked up a pair of gymnastic shoes sent out for repairs. That was it for me. Shoes. My first duty was to my book. My secondary commitment was to my feet. Why is that making that sound? I'm going to take, hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to pull this out. Can you still hear me? And Stouts did not disappoint. The knowledge and services provided by the staff at Stout Shoes and the personalized attention made shoe shopping an utterly pleasurable experience. Okay, good, Mary. Thank you. According to Stephanie Stout, co-owner of the oldest shoe store in America, quote unquote, the business has always been a family affair. Benjamin Stout and his wife, Elizabeth, ran a grocery and dry goods store while raising their family. The store helped put Benjamin through his engineering program at Purdue University. Harry Stout, one of the children, and William Brister, a shoe salesman, shoe patent holder, mining owner, and real estate mogul, created a boot and shoe store at 318 Massachusetts Avenue in 1886. 5 years later, Brister left, and Edward Stout, Harry's brother, became a partner in the shoe store. In 12 years, Stout Shoes had 4 locations, including the 318 Massachusetts Avenue location. Many factors contributed to Stout's success. Come on, let's get to the haunting here. Personalized service with ample staff helped. When handmade shoes were still the rage, a wide selection of shoes in various widths sold at discount made Stout Shoes unique. Additionally, the 500 parades went past the Massachusetts Avenue location, which provided excellent visibility over the years. But according to Harry Stout, business success lies in good management and bullheadedness. 2 other items attract visitors: the packaging system and the bird. By 1928, the company installed a Baldwin Flyer cash and package carrier, the only known Baldwin system working today. This pulley and chain system allows packages and money to be sent to the office. The workers in the office check to make sure the shoes are mated correctly, wrapped the boxes, and made the change, sending both back to the floor. This system not only allowed efficiency in the workplace, but it also made the area cleaner by not requiring oil to be applied and possibly tainting stock and the people around it. Thank you, Rain. Thank you for coming. Yeah, it is a good way. I love to read, and it does help me fall asleep when I read at night. Thank you. Title, this is Cursed Circle City. Different stories of hauntings in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I met the author yesterday, her and her husband. They've been to every place here in this book. Oh, and here's an ad from Stout shoe store. Easter shoes, and it shows the prices. So I'm taking it that this is haunted. It sounds like a cool pulley system, doesn't it? For this sale, this shoe store. It says this system not only allowed efficiency in the workplace, but it also made the area cleaner by not requiring oil to be applied and possibly tainting stock and the people around it. The system employed the salespeople and 2 package wrappers, a cashier, and a front desk attendant to ensure the timely distribution of the readied packages and change. Hi, Nicole. In the mid-1900s, the store added exotic animals, 2 monkeys, and a parrot named Billy graced the store. Nicole, I changed it from the insane asylum tonight. I'm going to do that a different time. Just doing a couple of stories. Haunted stories. Today, Billy has been replaced by Ripley, who still captivates visitors and makes you feel at home with squawks and talk. When Harry Stout died in 1912, Edward took over the business entirely. During the Great Depression, 3 of the 4 stores closed. And after World War II, Edward's sons, Oliver and Sidney, and Oliver's son, Harry, ran the store. You're welcome, Rain. Thank you. Love you too, Nicole. Oh, here you go. Here you go. Here's that pulley system. The Baldwin Flyer. The best and latest in assisting the customers efficiently. The shoes would come on this, back to the workers. And then they would wrap them and everything and send them out to the customer. Along with the bill and all that. That is really cool. Bicycle delivery services boosted sales. And in the 1950s, Stout sold factory. It does, doesn't it? Hey, a heart made wise. Sold factory seconds by repairing them and selling them at a discount. The business also added a foot x-ray machine to help customers find shoes to alleviate any foot issues. Even as the industry changed and the area of Massachusetts Avenue became blighted, Stouts continuously operated. Hi, Nightmare. It's too bright. Yeah, but I'm reading in my book, so I'm at kind of spur of the moment. Next time I'll have like candlelight, okay? A heart made wise. Let's see. By 1972, Harry ran the store by himself, and 10 years later, his son, Brad Stout, joined the business. Keeping the dream alive, the Stouts contributed to the rejuvenation of the area by rehabilitating the building to the east, which was once an illegal gambling den. They put an art gallery downstairs and luxury apartment upstairs. They also opened Carmel, Greenwood, and Brownsburg stores. In 2001, Stephanie Stout joined the family operation and spends much of her time working with customers, including me. Hi, Liza. Fancy you ladies coming. Rain. Let's see. Finally, in 2003, Brady Stout, the fifth generation of the Stout family, began his journey in the business, and his wife Anna joined later. The pair of them launched the website shoestores.com to add e-commerce to the list of business accomplishments. Okay, I think we're getting there. I think we might be getting to one of the ghost stories of this, hopefully. Today, Stout still runs by good management and bullheadedness. High quality, comfortable, and stylish shoes that are an investment are popular with their customers. Each visitor receives individualized attention and full service inducing measurements and detailed fittings. I hope you're well too, Liza. Yes. I wonder if this place is still open. Because it sounds like a good place to go, doesn't it? The basement of this building is where the stock was kept. Today it is mainly used, but still unused, but still contains beautiful old shelving and other traces of the early years of the shoe business. Employees and owners all agree going to the basement is one of their least favorite activities. It's just creepy. It is like someone is watching or someone is down here with you, they say. Cross-eyed Betty. Usually if I call her, she comes. Cross-eyed Betty. Dingbat. Oh, thank you, Rain. The building owned by the Stout family at 323 North Delaware Street, behind the shoe store, has more ghosts to offer. It was home to Samuel Reynolds and Charles F. Meyer, a coal and house materials business owner. Over the years, the location was home to doctor offices, A.M. Ragsdale Funeral Home, attorneys, apartments, a car garage, a used car lot, and most recently, a restaurant. Cross-eyed Betty. So excited. Okay, this title of this story, somebody had asked, and I didn't say what it was. It's Shoes and Funerals. Okay. While it was in attorney's office, an attorney David, an attorney, told us that when he started working in the building, an older attorney, Rupert, showed him a remodeled closet and a cane that sat in it. The cane had a wooden length and a tarnished brass head with the initials EB carved into the brass. That's all. No other things were stored there. Don't move it, Rupert told me. When I asked him why, all he said was, "We leave it alone." David knew the history of the building, but paid it no mind. I was completely focused on my career. Part of that focus, he found, was working long hours in the building. Certainly it had its creaks and bumps, but I chalked it up to an old building. until the night that changed his life. Here's a picture, guys. Stairs sporting a railing for carrying caskets down the stairs more easily. You can see not showing up too well. I stayed till late, finishing something up. It was early December when the light left early and the shadows came fast. I had my office in the upper deck of the building, where it was much quieter. I became aware of a rhythmic tapping. I assumed it was something outside. The tapping became more insistent. Looking out the windows, I couldn't see anything, but the closer I got to the hallway, the louder it became. David became quiet. I went to the closet where I knew the cane was kept and opened the door. I swear to you, it was up in the air, tapping on the wall. After I opened the door, the cane dropped as if it had been sitting there the entire time. Of course, I tried to explain it away and went back to my office, but the tapping began again. I ran to the closet this time, and when I threw open the door, it flew out and struck me in the face. I left. The next day, when I returned, I debated whether or not I should say something to Rupert. I didn't have to. He found me. Rupert came to David's office, and as soon as he saw the mark on David's face, he said, "It got you too, didn't it?" Oh, I have another picture to show you. David asked why they didn't just get rid of the cane and be done. The other attorney stated that when they remodeled, they found the cane. They thought it was a great reminder of the past. And for a time, Rupert kept it in his office. After it flew across the room several times, the older attorney thought he was going crazy and got rid of it. He put it in the garbage and assumed it would be picked up by the trashmen. It was found back in Rupert's office the next day. No one owned up to bringing it back. The attorney took it down the street and threw it in a dumpster. The next day, it was back in his office. When he attempted to remove it again, it smacked him in the head. Hi, Paula Kay. Here, a heart made wise. Are you still here? You want to help me out? Oh, Carolyn, you're there. Okay. Let's see. Where was this? Where was I? When he attempted to remove it again, it smacked him in the head. He placed it in the closet as if the closet was a shrine to the cane from that point on. The cane's original owner is a mystery. Perhaps it was a leftover from when it was a funeral home. Perhaps not. When we investigated the property, the attorneys had long since moved. Only remnants of telephones and carpeting remained. In that closet, we found no evidence of a cane. We did, however, hear a rapping from that area. After David's incident, he did not stay much longer than others in the building. I'd rather take my work home than stay in that building. Here's a picture. This is the very place Alonzo Ragsdale worked on his clients. Hi, Vicki. And the cane closet, here's a picture. When we investigated, it was no longer there. No wonder, we wonder where it is and if it is still aggressive. Spooky stairs, yes. And there's the cane closet. Let's see. I'm trying to find something that one second, guys. Trying to find a short one, okay? How about doctor, patient, murderer? How long is that one? Let's check this one out. Getting to page 61, almost there. Okay. Doctor, Patient, Murderer by Nicole Kabrowski. She wrote all these stories, except the husband. He did write 3 of them. In the spirit world, a building must not be old to be haunted. Organic items such as dirt, wood, stone, and things made of natural materials, e.g., glass, can hold vibrations or memory of past events. These events stem from the most natural form of these materials, or whatever form the materials are made into. For the Barton Center of Hope building, this qualification is no different. Originally, the Delaware Flats, it was a self-contained building with the Vendham Apartments in the building to the north. This was an apartment building for people without many children who needed little space. Most apartments contained 1 or 2 bedrooms, a living room, a small kitchen and bathroom, and a small eating area. While not a working class accommodation, it was simply, for most, a place to live before progressing in their careers, choosing to marry or retiring. As Indianapolis grew and more women entered the workplace, some stayed with their families and contributed to the overall household income. Others, such as Dr. Helen Elise Hermine Nabe, struck out on their own. Here's a picture of her. Hi, Debbie, yes? Reading true haunted stories. Dr. Nabe fought hard her entire life for what she had. Growing up near the Baltic Sea in Rugenwalder, something, Germany, now part of Poland. I'm not going to say the cities. She lost her mother when she was very young and never knew her father. He was a bridge inspector for the Prussian government. Encouraged by her uncle, Daniel Emke, to study and do what she wanted, Dr. Nabe moved to the United States in 1896 to become a doctor. She achieved this by working as a domestic, learning English, and performing hard years of coursework in medical school. A woman of first, she was one of two women to graduate in her class in April 1904. She had a prize preceptor, that sparked jealousy among her male peers. She taught for the Indiana University School of Medicine as a clinical associate, which was, hi, whoa, Lisa. Well, aren't you making quite an entrance here? Hi, Kathleen Cruz. Yes, ghost stories. Well, Lisa, ghost stories. True. As she taught for Indiana University School of Medicine as a clinical associate, which was considering giving back to her profession, and she was not paid. She was the first woman to work in the Indiana State Board of Health as a deputy health officer and assistant bacteriologist, and single-handedly created the Department of Hygiene Pathology, which was promptly given to a man. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. What? She created that department and was given to a man. Thank you, Kathleen. I think I just said that. But during her time at the state, she headed off many potential and actual epidemics, including typhoid and diphtheria. Sadly, her work at the Indiana State Board of Health was not valued. In July 1907, after two predecessors, she was placed in charge of the state laboratory of hygiene. That is shady. As acting superintendent. Shortly after this event, come on now, I want the actual hauntings here. The history is great, but let's see. Wow. Okay, Riley's Children's Hospital. Okay, let's see. I'll give a little of the history, not a lot. It's getting late. Shortly after this event, Dr. N. Hurdy decided he needed to hire a quote-unquote real capable man to fill the superintendent position. He said publicly that the state couldn't pay $1,800 per year for her salary, but offered her replacement $3,000 per year. He also promised a free budget for the lab and an extra assistant. Dr. Nabe's replacement eventually got paid $2,000 per year. Hi, Daniel. Isabel, that's right. Nice to see you. I love your name. Okay, Dr. Schweitzer became assistant bacteriologist after Dr. Nabe and made $1,400 a year. Okay, she turned herself to pathology and rabies research and earned $150 per case diagnosing rabies. She was the doctor responsible for proving the existence of rabies in Indiana. Wow. She brought the rapid diagnosis procedure, which enhanced the Pasteur treatment method. She brought that to Indiana from a fellowship in New York at Johns Hopkins. She studied with the co-creator of the new process, Dr. Anna Wessels Williams. Dr. Nabe also had a private practice, and at the time of her death, she was studying to become a gym teacher. Okay, let me see what's happening with this story. I'm sorry. It is interesting, though, isn't it? Indianapolis, during Dr. Nabe's time, was a bustling, somewhat dirty, but growing city. Every comfort and some discomforts one wanted could be found downtown. Trolleys, hired hacks, and plenty of sidewalk space for walking were available to residents. The theater and a budding art community were available diversions. Dr. Nabe specifically enjoyed attending plays, especially Dante's Inferno. Her home at Flat 2 of the Delaware Flats was directly on the corner on the first floor above the basement. Known initially as part of the East Side neighborhood, Dr. Nabe's home was part of what is known as the Riley and Chatham Arch neighborhoods, primarily made of German and Irish immigrants. The districts were cohesive communities. Das Deutsche Haus, das Deutsche Haus, now the Athenaeum, was a community center, bringing all the German clubs of the day under one roof. When Germans arrived in Indiana, many of them were first housed at the Athenaeum. They learned how to cope in America by learning English and working in the Nabe or Nip in the basement. Today, this bar is now part of the Rathskeller restaurant. I need to get a little drink. Is this interesting at all? I think it is. Thank you. Okay. The Irish immigrants didn't seem to have their own community center, nor were they as well-to-do as the Germans. Okay, thanks, Debbie and Vicki. Most worked in manual labor or factory work and lived in cottages in the Chatham Arch, St. Joe, Lockerbie, Fountain Square, and Riley neighborhoods. Although a giving and jovial crowd, tensions between Irish and Germans, sometimes all in good-natured fun, seemed to brew under the surface. Many times one witnessed on what is affectionately known as Mass Avenue, loud singing, rowdiness, and some less than savory business deals taking place. Lex, would you mind coming to shut this window for me? I don't want to get up in front of the camera. I want to get this story done. People are listening. I don't want to keep them waiting. Dr. Nabe persisted. She sent money home to her Uncle Daniel, who had been a diver who cleaned barnacles off ships. She was his sole means of support after he was no longer able to work. She made good money, but chose to live simply rather than most of her male and female counterparts, and buy large houses or practice in fashionable neighborhoods and buildings. Another person Dr. Nabe grew. That's why I wanted it put in that bucket or whatever I put it in. Okay. Was Dr. W.B. Craig, the dean of students at the veterinary college in Indiana University. He was a former consultant and worked with the Indiana Board of Health. Through her networking with Dr. Craig and others, she became the first elected woman to chair a department at a veterinarian college in North America. I am too, as soon as this is over. Love you.
Good night, guys. Love you too.
In 1909, and one of the first recognized faculty members at such an organization. Dr. Nabe was a smart woman who did what she needed to survive. She taught at the Normal College of the National Association of Gymnasts Union and Indiana University. She was the department chair of hematology and parasitology at the IVC. Dr. Nabe had a semi-thriving private practice. She lectured and educated the public about hygiene and sanitation issues, and she even did occasional teaching for the newly formed YWCA. Dr. Nabe worked tirelessly in her community. Thank you, Rain. Often giving free medical treatment to those who could not afford it by taking collateral. How is it then that such a giving, caring woman was found dead in a pool of her own blood, half nude, and with her throat cut to the point her head almost rolled under the bed frame? When Dr. Nabe's cold body was found by Catherine, her assistant, chaos was the order of the day. By the time the police were called, many doctors and friends had already arrived. The trash had been emptied. People had been all around the body and the apartment. Forensic evidence, as primitive as it was, had been destroyed and the scene compromised. The police thought she was a sexually frustrated lesbian and did herself in. Women doctors believed it was murder and worked with a private investigator to prove it. Male doctors were split. The coroner agreed with the women. When the blood spatter dried and the lone fingerprint smudged, when the 2 cuts on her throat were analyzed and the microtome knife disappeared, when the kimono vanished and 2 men were arrested in the eyes of the court, it meant a whole lot of nothing. 2 men were arrested based on circumstantial evidence. Dr. Craig, her reputed fiance and colleague, were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Never mind that he posted a bond of $15,000 before the ink dried, which is a massive no-no in first-degree murder cases. The police believed Craig killed her because he wished to break off their engagement, or already had, and just decided to get rid of her. Mr. Alonzo M. Ragsdale, undertaker and executor of her estate, was arrested as well as an accomplice, and he too posted bond. Apparently, he'd been charged with laundering the kimono she'd been wearing, and it seemed as though when it reappeared, it now had untraceable blood stains on it. All in all, the trial was primarily a boys' club farce. Set in Shelbyville, it did garner new lighting for the courthouse. The microtome knife and the smudged fingerprint were never brought into the case. The witnesses couldn't precisely identify Dr. Craig. He denied that he'd been engaged and even brought in the other woman to testify for him. The other woman, quote unquote. The defense painted Dr. Nabe as a masculine, lesbian, and difficult woman who deserved what she got. Even the prosecution, which showed a pattern of Dr. Craig dallying with women, had no effect. Dr. Craig, who refused to marry a ruined 15-year-old and told her, "I pay cash," seemed to be golden. Wow. When the final gavel blow fell, Dr. Craig was free for lack of evidence. Ragsdale was freed because Ragsdale couldn't be an accomplice if Dr. Craig didn't do it. The case, although technically open, hasn't been worked in decades. The principal players are dead. The immediate descendants of the leading players are also mostly gone, with no one except repressed women, an old mason, and a quiet school teacher to advocate for her. Dr. Nabe's murderer was never convicted. Her estate was sold at auction, her precious medical books and laboratory equipment scattered, and most of Dr. Nabe's correspondence was most likely lost. Her estate fell just over $100 short of all her expenses. For Dr. Nabe had done for those people around her. No one afforded her the dignity of a tombstone until we gave her a rose granite tombstone in 2006. Oh, wow. Oh, I knew I liked this couple yesterday. Wow. Oh, and besides stories, they're cemetery aficionados. But what of Dr. Nabe herself? We often hear paranormal investigators say that when people are plucked from life prematurely, and especially under harsh circumstances, they can come back and relive that tragic event over and over. Other times, the deceased can come back and perform things that gave pleasure during life. This phenomenon may be the case with Dr. Nabe's. It is sad, isn't it? Dr. Nabe. Within 3 days of her death, Dr. Nabe's ghost was seen in the street and in her neighborhood, walking as though she was out running errands. Well, that makes me feel really sad. I don't want to start crying. That'd be really dumb. Even though bars had been put on all the lower floor windows, people swore they heard strange noises in her apartment, screams, and odd thumps that happened about the time of her murder when no one was supposed to be in the apartment. Whereas one family was so scared of the spirit, they moved out of the apartment building. Another doctor moved into her apartment 3 weeks after her murder and found the apartment comfortable. One of Dr. Nabe's closest friends, Mrs. Blanche Lindley, was extremely hard hit by the death. She told police that Dr. Nabe had visited her in a dream. Dr. Nabe asked Mrs. Lindley to talk to the police about the person who, on the day of her on the day of her body was removed, left the umbrella on the railing to the stairway that went down to the janitor's room under her apartment. Mrs. Lindley told Augusta Nabe about the dream. Augusta remembered the umbrella, but did not remember who it belonged to. She even remembered asking Police Chief Highland who it belonged to at the time, and he told her to leave it there. When they told him of the dream, he denied any knowledge of the umbrella or the conversation. Psychics were brought in to help divine who had killed Dr. Nabe. These mediums couldn't quite agree on where the police should look, and therefore their opinions were largely ignored. It is creepy, isn't it, Rain? However, one medium named Rose told investigators that they should be looking for a man and someone who could speak of, quote unquote, the sins of man from under the microscope. Could this mean one of her doctor colleagues? As a result of her death, at least one, if not two suicides were attributed to backlash and stress over her death. The areas in which these suicides took place are haunted by the spirits of the dead. These people have been seen reenacting their demise during the anniversary of the event. Additionally, students in her normal college classes, Normal is the name of a college, became despondent and would gaze at the test questions she'd left on the board months after her death. No one had the desire to erase her last known handwriting. The board was photographed and then stored. Still, time passed, and with it the memory of Dr. Nabe. Occasionally, her name would be mentioned as one of the famous unsolved homicides. Dr. Nabe was just another old story until her rebirth through unseenpress.com's tour. And that's the author. Remember, they own that website and the tours. We were lucky enough to be allowed several times in the building where she died, and we've kept watch in areas where she is said to haunt. We were able to conduct investigations into this Indianapolis haunting. Although we have not picked up anything in the outdoor locations where she has been said to walk, we have picked up what could be her voice saying, "It's terrible," and "I'm here." When we analyze our pictures, the only room we obtained orbs in was in her suite of apartments. Any screams or reenactments of her death are long since gone. One investigation unearthed her ability to reach out to others. As the Salvation Army began to rehab her building, apparently it brought out her downside. Workers there said they could hear her from top to bottom late at night when the building was dirty and torn apart, quote unquote. She is said to have moved construction equipment around, and she made some thunderous noises as if she was striking metal on metal repeatedly. One explanation for this is that she may have been heartbroken about the clutter and dirt. As a hygiene and sanitation advocate, she was very particular about germs and bacteria. Another worker told me that later, when he used what would have been her examination room as his office, he could hear her walking softly as if in slippers. The building and her apartment in general were the last to see remodeling. He would listen to her walk behind him and into the next room without going into the hallway to use the door. When she died, it believed she had put on her slippers to meet whoever might have been at the door. Perhaps today she is still looking to see if her patients need her, or maybe she was simply going about her unfinished laboratory work. Still, other workers on site didn't even want to talk about it. They said they heard her and don't want to hear it again. Right, Rain? It would. Finally, although in other buildings and places, she has been seen several times in the Barton Center of Hope. She has only been seen once. A worker for the leading construction company said that he was on the floor in what would have been her bedroom working on some pipes. As he worked on the pipes, he said a woman in a blue dress with bright red flowers appeared. The worker realized he could see right through her, crawled out of the bathroom, and he quit his job. Can't blame him. I can't blame him there. Dr. Nabe's kimono was dark blue with bright red poppies. Despite her violent and senseless death that robbed the medical community of a brilliant mind, no hard and fast indication at present that Dr. Nabe seeks to avenge her death. She was dedicated to saving lives, not destroying them. After Dr. Nabe's death, the apartment building was turned into the Barton Hotel, a respectable, if not modest, hotel for travelers. Clean and inexpensive, it enjoyed a good reputation until it was turned into Barton House Convalescent Home in the early 1960s. During the building's life, several deaths occurred. Jefferson Hayes died in 1915 of a heart attack in the basement of the hotel in his room. He was the maintenance man at the Delaware Flats when Dr. Nabe died, and he and his family continued in that capacity during the hotel's time. Sarah Inlow, a matron of a home for women, died suddenly on January 1st, 1931, in her apartment of dilated cardiomyopathy exacerbated by pneumonia. Dr. Edward C. Thomas, 72, committed suicide by covering his head over a gas hot plate on July 4th, 1927. Only after a few minutes of death, he was found to have been, after only a few minutes of death, he was found to have been despondent over his friend, Dr. Paul E. Robinson. Thomas said at the time, "If only it could have been me instead of someone who had so much to live for." Thomas left a note at his own death. "No home, nothing to live for, living because I can't die." He also had been estranged from part of his family. Here's a picture, the window to Dr. Nabe's office. Does sound odd, doesn't it? Robert D. Armand, a suspect in the killing of Corporal Momoa Ridings in 1943, died in the building in 1982. Let's see how much longer this is. It's interesting, but he died suddenly on January, wait. Scott worked for a medical staffing agency as a nursing assistant. Every medical facility he worked at whether a nursing home or a hospital, had some form of paranormal activity. Some of the most common stories discussed were when the dying saw dead relatives or friends, and some even saw what they believed were angels. But on one occasion, demons came to greet the departing patient. In a Hamilton County, Indiana medical facility, an older man used to come in quite often. Scott had assisted this man, and the staff, including Scott, believed this man had an awkward, if not somewhat abusive, relationship with his children. The general consensus was this patient was not a good man. Let me get a little sip. During an overnight shift, the man started screaming he was being dragged to hell by demons, and he coded. The medical team brought him back once, but he succumbed shortly after. After moving to Indianapolis, Scott began working full-time in nursing homes around the city through the medical staffing agency. He never accepted shifts at the Barton House, partly because he didn't want to work at that particular facility, but also because at the time the neighborhood was not very safe. The main entrance he would have used sat in a recessed, dark space. The building was in a horrible state of disrepair, but he also felt creeped out by the establishment. Not that you don't expect some paranormal activity. You did, and you did experience it almost in any facility, but there were some worse than others, he said, as in the case with the Barton House nursing facility. Scott heard plenty of stories from his colleagues. Patients, particularly terminally ill residents, would see a doctor in their rooms late at night. These stories happened on overnight shifts and became markers of the impending death of patients within a couple of days. One nursing assistant heard a conversation in a back room around 2 a.m. When she went in to the room to check on the noise, she found only the resident. When asked about the voices, the resident talked about the quote-unquote nice doctor that had just left. The CNA said no one walked out of the room, and it was not customary for doctors to visit patients at night. Another CNA made rounds and filled ice pitchers. When he entered the room, the resident was sitting up in bed. The CNA asked why she was up. The resident told her that she was talking to her doctor and pointed to the chair in the corner. The nursing assistant could not see anyone in the chair, but the resident seemed to still see someone. One patient put her call light on. When the CNA answered it, the patient asked if she could speak to the doctor who had come to see her the night before. When the CNA explained it was late, but she would tell the nurse, the resident said the doctor told her she had an office in the building. Oh, no, I see you, Meg. Yeah, I see ya. You're not blocked. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, thanks for stopping in, Meg. Let's see. It is. Where'd we go? Where'd it go? Doctors did not keep offices in the building, and the patient had a male doctor. The doctor in all cases was described as a female doctor in white, in her 30s or 40s, with glasses. The doctor would sit and talk with residents for some time, calming them in their last days and giving them a sense of peace, and caring. In one of the few pictures of Dr. Nabe known to exist, she's wearing glasses and a white lab coat. In another photo, her blouse is light colored. The buildings remained a convalescent home until the early 1900s, when the last of the patients left. It sat empty for many years until the Salvation Army turned it into the Barton Center of Hope, which provides low-income housing and office space for the Salvation Army. Oh, thanks, Meg. Thank you. And what of Dr. Nabe's apartment today? No one stays for long. The memories of other people still run through the building, hoping for their own chance to be heard. Even today, the ghosts of the Barton Center of Hope want to be heard. Many people who have lived in this building continue to experience unusual events. Toilets flush without warning. Visitors to the basement see a dark figure. Many believe this black man is Jefferson Hayes, the unfortunate maintenance man who died of a heart attack over 100 years ago. A construction worker went to the basement to find something in storage. He stated, "The lights weren't working properly, and it was somewhat dim in the basement. I turned my phone flashlight on to get a better look at the area. I came face to face with an older African American gentleman who walked across the space." Where was that space? None other than below Dr. Nabe's apartment, where Jefferson Haynes lived. A resident, we'll call her Barb, lived in the apartment across the hall from Dr. Nabe's rooms. In this apartment, an ashtray levitated regularly, and candy bars were flung about the room. One Halloween, Barb said, the kids were trick-or-treating in the building. I had a bowl of miniature candy bars by the door. Our doorbell rang. As I went to answer it, stop it, Carolyn. You're not going to get me again. Yeah, you had me looking too. Let's see. Our doorbell rang. As I went to answer it, the bowl levitated and several bars were flung in my direction. Nick Harvey, a security guard, saw, quote unquote, tons of orbs in a locked activity room. They stayed on the camera, darting about for about an hour, and as quickly as they came, they dissipated. This is very significant. When we did our investigations of the building, it was before and during the construction. Only 1 out of 1,000 pictures we took had any orbs in them, and they were captured with cameras nowhere near as good as today's security cameras. Our conditions were drafty, dusty rooms with broken windows and questionable seals on doors. You're making me laugh now. You got me on that. I'm thinking, is he that bored that he's over here? Today in a cleaner space with better windows, street lights, and the light from the camera are not enough to make tons of orbs for over an hour. We've seen lighting and security cameras in other situations. While orbs are possible, it is usually a few that subside after a short time, darting through her room and disappearing. Are these a congregation of ghosts waiting to be heard? You be the judge. Let's see. Okay, we made it. Here's a picture of it too. Restroom in which a worker saw Dr. Nabe walk in wearing her kimono. Okay. Orbs are cool. Oh, Meg, you don't want to say you like her and that you like me either. I'm the dumb one. I'm the one that ain't got no brain. She thinks I'm so dumb. Space, honey. You were so wrong on some of your theories. Totally off base. I wish I could remember which ones they were, but I can't give it away now anyway. But you were super off, girl. Carolyn. Okay, wasn't that cool though, guys? Kind of like that story. They're true stories, and I met the authors, like I said, husband and wife, and she's a very educated lady. She wrote tons of books, and so should be some interesting things, right? So I'll let you guys go, and thank you for stopping by. Thanks for coming. Thanks for not hating me. Yes, Rain, yes. Look, okay, the husband, told me he wrote 3 stories in here. So he signed this one along with her. Yes, Meg. Both of them. Husband and wife team. He's from a different country, from another country, but I was so excited that they were the authors that I didn't ask where they're from. But he gave me, they want me, he said for me to email them. Here, this is the second edition of this one that she wrote. And she signed it. Oh, and I'll show you guys. They gave me a free gift because I bought 3 books from them. They gave me a free gift. I'll show you. Wait, she better have signed this one. If she didn't, I know it was just an oversight because her husband was getting fresh books out of a case or something. So I didn't have to buy the ones that were sitting out there. Oh, she didn't sign this one. But look at this. You won't believe this. Look at the freebie. Can you see what it is? Lizzie Borden coloring book. Coloring book. Isn't that cool? Yes, Mary. Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Andrew Borden now is dead. Lizzie hit him on the head. Up in heaven he will sing. On the gallows she will swing. It says a father and a stepmother axed to death. One suspect, Lizzie Borden, the daughter. This coloring book takes the artist on a journey through the events leading up to the murders, the trial, and the aftermath. Designed for framing, each picture has part of the story written on the back page, giving context to the picture. With over 30 stunning drawings and line art to color as well as a history lesson. This book is the definitive coloring book for Lizzie Borden and true crime fans. The pages are also designed to be intermediately complex, not so much so you are frustrated, and not too little for you to become bored. Although you can enjoy coloring these beautifully terrifying sketches anytime, these excruciatingly frightening pages are best used so as not to cause an accident. Accident, AX hyphen IDENT. And this is their company here. They own the unseenpress.com. Glad you like. Good, yes. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Excited about this. Okay. Night, guys. And or morning or afternoon. Have a great one. See ya.